What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Michelle, and we are discussing the second episode of season 7 of
Hello.
Outlander. Hello. I cried so much this episode. Like, I was trying to hold it together
But
through
it was a
most of
it
the
was a
emotional stuff. And then when Jim let out that, I love you, girl, the damn burst, I was like, not a 5-year-old making me cry. Like,
yeah, it was a I wasn't expecting it.
yeah, they went through a lot in this episode.
They
Like,
did.
we talked about this in the last episode, how it seems like they're pushing the story forward.
Hmm.
So finally, okay, last episode we got rid of the Brown storyline once and for all. This episode we seemingly got rid of the Christie storyline.
Right. And it was quick. He came to confess quickly.
Quickly, and just put it all out there, like, oh, okay, so Alan Christie shows up on the ridge. He's at Malva's grave. Claire comes over to give her condolences. She's like, I'm so sorry for your loss, for your sister and your father. And he starts talking to her about, how much he loved Malva, and how, he was the first person that was able to hold her. And he was like, she was so soft and she was so perfect. And she was, I took care of her. I made sure she was okay. I was the one who made sure she was fed. And he was talking about all this stuff. And it's just like, okay, he's this really protective big brother. Then he starts talking about when she was little, and he was like, her skin was so soft, and when her privates budded like a rose, we were all like,
Yeah. Claire looking like, what the hell?
Claire started, like, as soon as he said
When
that,
he started
she
talking and stuff,
started
she
putting
was
that
like, you
shit
could see the
together.
wheels turn like,
She
this
was like,
is
hold
the
up. She was like, did you kill? She was like, you killed Malva.
Mhm.
And it's like she's trying to, you can tell she's holding back all this rage, because she was like, if you knew the bullshit I just went through because of all this. But she was like, okay, let me just sit here and get all of this out. So yeah, he talked about how it had been him and Malva. They were meant for each other. And then they showed that one little scene of him on top of her, and she was just sitting there like, I was like,
Yeah.
y'all, we really
Like,
could have did without the scene. Like, we have imaginations, but I get it. But they had to show us. Malva was
yeah.
like,
She wasn't into it.
mm-mm. He was the one that was abusing her, in love with her. And then of course she went through the whole thing where she slept with Ian and she slept with the other guy because she was already pregnant with Alan's baby, which we all figured, and which I knew because I read the books up through that part. So I already knew Alan was the father. I just didn't know how they were going to play it in the show.
Hmm. And they did a good job because no one should be like, where did that come from? Did y'all not see the funeral where he was about laid on top of the coffins?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Where he
you be
was
like,
cradling that
nah.
baby's coffin, like,
Yeah, so it's like, oh, he didn't seem like he cared much for her when they were walking around, but clearly something's going on here.
yeah, but I mean, I guess that's the way he had to act when they were out around other people.
Hmm.
Like, he still acted like they were close, like that was, you know, he was very protective of her, but we always thought that it was kind of a weird protection
Yeah.
of of her. And at this point, I guess he felt like he had nothing else to lose, because now your dad just sacrificed himself for Claire.
He's
And
gone.
even though he didn't seem like he cared that much for his dad, I think he still, I don't know, loved him, respected him, wanted his approval. And it's just like at this point, he has nobody left. So he's just telling it all to Claire. And he has a gun with him, and he tries to shoot himself. And Claire takes the gun, and she was like, no, I can't let you do this. Your father sacrificed himself for me and for you, even though you don't deserve it. He was like, I can't live. I whoop.
Boop. And now he's dead.
And he's dead. Ian was like, no,
Mm-mm.
you can't live. He can't live, Auntie. And the look on Ian's face, he was pissed.
Because I believe that Baron was mine.
So he was already upset. And I think you remember last season he talked about he was gonna he would have
Yeah,
married
he would
Malva,
marry her.
you know. But they gave it to us. They gave it to us quick. We didn't have to like literally Claire escaped from her fate in the last episode. Now we have the death of Alan in this episode. So that Christy storyline is over. But I noticed that when Claire was doing her little internal monologue and she was talking about Tom Christie, and she was like, surely he was dead by now. I was like, oh, that means he ain't dead.
Maybe he's not dead.
He's not dead. I don't think so. I don't know if he would have talked his way out of it or if he would have bartered his way out of it. I think for that governor and for the people of this time, they would probably be more willing to hang a woman than they would a man, of course.
If not, he may be still in prison.
He could be. He could be on that boat. He could be free already, making his way back to the ridge. We don't know. But in either case, Alan Christie is dead. I don't think anybody will mourn him. And Claire and Ian definitely wasn't going to give him an opportunity, or I would say they weren't going to give the rest of the Ridge folks the opportunity to point more accusations at them, because at this point, you have nothing to prove what Alan has just told you, because the one person who knew everything is now dead. So they're like, yeah, we're just going to bury him up under this tree. And here comes Mrs. Bug looking. And at first I was like, is she going to cause a problem?
No.
She was like, I knew the devil had his grip on Alan Christie from the moment he arrived on the ridge. I knew something wasn't right about him. I don't know what he did, but I know you two, and I knew you wouldn't have killed him unless he deserved it. So let's go ahead and bury this body before
quickly.
But you know what? I was like, Mrs. Bug, now we don't know that much about her in the show. Okay. We know that she's been there with Jamie and Claire. She has kept house for them. She has played nanny to Brianna's kid, well, to Jim at least. So we were like, we know her to be this good woman, but the fact that she was so willing to just like bury a body, I got some questions about Merdina Bug. Because you don't just walk up to a scene of somebody digging a grave for, a person that that everybody knows. And then you're just like, oh, okay, I'll help you bury the body, and don't say nothing. She's some shade in her.
Yeah, something. But I liked it though, because she came up and was like, yeah, I knew something was wrong, and let's do this quickly before anybody else find out. And then she started helping dig the hole. I'm like, okay, I love you.
First of all, was she walking with a hoe? Like, did she have one in her hand?
No, she had like a basket. No, she didn't.
So I guess Claire and Ian just had extra gardening tools lying around. Okay, we'll take it. Yeah. We'll take it. Either way it goes, Alan Christie is gone, dead and buried, forgotten about.
So that string has been tied. Browns.
Nice little bow.
Yeah, we're done with that. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
No dragging out, which is what we said last season.
Because we don't have time. We don't have time to drag this out. That's why I like the pacing. Like, as soon as the episode started and he started talking, I'm like, well, damn, we about to get through this quick.
The whole thing. You giving us the full confessional.
Right. We didn't draw this out and there's a scene with Jamie. And like, no, we're done. We didn't get to do this last episode. We're going to do this episode, and we finna finish up. I'm like, okay. Right. I'm here for it.
But the one thing I will say about his confession and what he was saying about Malva and her change of heart, because she had decided that she couldn't go through with the deception because she loved Claire, you know, and that was one of the things he said, that he told her to name Jamie because he figured Jamie would just pay her off and tell her to get the hell on, and then they would leave together and be able to raise the baby together. So he really thought Jamie was just dumb and gonna be like, oh, okay, well, I have no proof. Let me go ahead and just pay her and get this over with. No, Jamie knew he didn't sleep with that girl. And he was not about to pay you up. So that's where you messed up. But I think the contrast is interesting that Alan gives us the conversation about how she didn't want to go through with it because she loved Claire, how it wasn't right. And then we kind of see his recollection of that last meeting when she was headed to the big house. She was going to confess to Claire, and he told her, look, we can leave, we can raise our child together. And she was like, Alan, this is not right. And he was like, but I love you. And she looked at him and she was like, but I don't love you. And that was what set him off. That was what made him slit her throat. But she loved Claire enough to not want to continue on with the farce. But then when you hear her dad talking about her, and then what we saw of her character, she was willing to go along with it enough that she tried to poison Claire and her father. Whether she tried to kill him or not, I don't know. I think she did, but it's kind of like, it's such a contrast. Like, you love this woman so much that you don't want to betray her, and break her trust.
That's what you're saying.
But at the same time,
but you poison her at the same time.
Right. Probably to get out of the situation, because you were like, okay, maybe, Mr. Fraser is the only way I can get out of this situation. The only way I can get Alan to leave me alone.
Right.
And
I can see that, because at the time she doesn't have her dad and Claire's not around. She can, like how she did, kind of seduce maybe Jamie. She thought she could, and then she can get away from her brother. Because at that point she really was trying to get away from Alan. But then she couldn't, and then Alan set up this plan. She's like, well, I can't do that.
Right.
I'm thinking, but you can poison people. So why didn't you poison Alan?
Right. Like, you poisoned Claire and your father. And then we realized that didn't work. What did you do? You cut Claire's hair, thinking that she would no longer be attractive to Jamie. And because you are kind of sort of a spitting image of her, you're this pale young woman, long brown hair, I guess in some aspect, she was thinking that she would take Claire's place. But I think the problem is, even though she had her womanly wiles, as her father said, and she knew how to manipulate men, she knew how to manipulate men who didn't have a Claire. She knew how to manipulate men who weren't Jamie Fraser, or who, I would even say with Ian, like, maybe she was sweet on him a little bit, but also she couldn't go to Ian, because Ian would have made an honest woman of her.
Right. And the thing is, it's like the dad saying she manipulated. It ain't really, I don't feel like it's a manipulation when those boys want to get lucky. So I'm confused. It wouldn't took that much. However, you just lay with a lot of them. So you only really need to lay with one to say that they got you pregnant, but you continue on, and you have a love spell going on in the woods, and you cut that man's fingers off. So you know what? She's a diverse character. You know what I'm saying? She got a lot going on for herself.
Diverse. She's complex. That's the word. She's complex.
Yes, better word. Because she has a lot going on. She does.
Right. And I do believe
that, because her dad was telling the truth. She was doing some of that stuff.
Yeah, but I think Alan was telling the truth too. I think she did care for Claire. I mean, Claire was probably the closest.
I believe that she did care for Claire, because there was a couple of times where she looked at her like she wanted to tell her. Alan stopped her. The only thing she did not want to do was the Alan situation. So I can see her doing crazy stuff to get out of the Alan situation, but she could have did the easier move and poisoned him.
She really
not the dad.
She really could have.
You could have poisoned Alan.
But at the same time, if you poison Alan, you don't have the quote unquote mastermind to help you get out of this situation. Because if you poison Alan and he dies, you still have to figure out what you're going to do as far as this baby and who you're going to pin fatherhood on and stuff. And I just don't think.
I think you should have went. I'll be honest with you, in that situation, I think you could have poisoned dad and brother, hope for the best. And you come out that situation, needing someone to be the father. You have slept with, let's say, at least 2 men. You pick one, and out of those 2 men, I would go with Ian because Ian is related to Jamie. So Ian has some resources and he can take care of you. And when you get to a point when you no longer want him, you poison him, and then you
No,
become the
we're not
Black
even
Widow.
gonna. No, we're not even
I'm
gonna.
just
No,
saying.
no.
This is
I know
maturity talking. She wasn't mature, so she just
she
didn't poison the
wasn't.
right people.
She wasn't. And then in that day and time, like women who are of the intelligence of Claire and Brianna during that time were few and far between.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of the women in that time, and especially we see on the show, a lot of them know how to use their bodies to get what they want. Not too many of them know how to use their minds to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that of Malva Christie, especially because her father kept her so sheltered and he kept her so restrained. He didn't really want her reading. He didn't
I
want
do
her learning.
understand that, but
So
she knew more than some other women who had some more experience. I'm just saying she
in
did
in certain
in
yeah,
certain
certain things.
areas. However, it is horrible what her brother did to her. So it's like, but to me, that would be the first person I would try to get rid of. So I don't even know how she feels about, because we can't take Alan's perspective on things.
Not
In
really.
the video, we see that, not the video, the flashback, we do see that she didn't care for it, but like, was she conflicted? Did she really care for her brother? You understand? We don't. That's the
So
part we don't have, where it was probably the reason why she didn't poison him, because she maybe did care for her brother but hated what he was doing to,
right,
like, we
right,
don't know. Now
right.
dad is a different story, because we don't know, she did find out that that wasn't her dad. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
We
And I
didn't really
think
never get her
yeah,
thoughts
I
about
think she
things.
probably did care about Alan just because, I mean, if you think about the way that he describes it, like he was the one that was always there for her. And even though what he was doing to her was horrible, in some sense, she probably still looked at it as he's still the only person who has ever been there for me. He
Mm-hmm.
protected her from their dad's beatings. He stood up for her. He like he said, he fed her, he took care of her. When their mother was executed and they had to go live with the aunt, he said their aunt barely fed them. He was the one that made sure that Malva was fed. So
Fed.
maybe it was more a sense of obligation on her part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I hate what he's doing and I don't want to do this anymore. But maybe she just felt like she couldn't completely turn her back on him.
Right. And that would be why she wouldn't poison him. And
Yeah.
then the thing is, I don't feel bad for Alan, but however, he did truly believe that she felt the same way.
I don't know how, because if you looked at the two little flashbacks we had of
He
them
wasn't even
together.
looking at that. He just, like, they were together, and he probably got that she cares for me, but it's the caring for me because I'm her brother and I took care of her, and he's seeing it in a whole different way, because he looking all surprised when she said, "I don't love you."
Well, okay, so again, we're talking about in the 1700s. That little flashback we had of him where he was on top of her, and she was just laying there kind of non-responsive.
Mm-hmm.
The other flashback where they were laying in bed together, he was holding her stomach and she again was laying in bed, no emotion on her face, no, I mean, she was
Nothing.
blank. Men back then didn't really care about women and their feelings and whether or not if they didn't want to bed them, they didn't care if they just laid there and took it. They still
I
they
and I
still
told
interpreted that as
But
them.
with Alan, he's a little bit more touched on the emotional side. You can tell. I still feel like he was, like, really feeling like they had a love connection.
I don't know how, but I
I
guess.
I mean, I think he really did, because of what they've been through. He feels like they had a connection. They did, because they were siblings, but that they had a connection. He was her protector. They were there for each other. Like, he thought this was soulmates.
Yeah, he said as much.
Right.
He was
So
like, from the time she was here, there was no one else for either of us. And even when he said that before he said the other stuff. I was like, oh, so we're about to
yeah,
get this
like
confession now.
right. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is how this went down.
So this is, and you saw the look of like Claire was in between horror and rage. She was like horrified for what Malva had been through, but she was like, I'm about to kill this motherfucker right now. Not only for what he did to Malva, but also for what he put her family through. Like
Mm-hmm.
she literally, their house was attacked. Speaking of which, who fixed the house while they were gone? Because the windows were all repaired, the doors. But anyway, we won't go into that.
Mrs. and Mr. Bug did it, okay?
Maybe they did, and maybe the people on the ridge
The
who
twins,
believe, yeah, the
Lizzie.
twin. Lizzie couldn't do nothing because she was heavily pregnant at the time, so she
Right,
wouldn't
but
have
she
been able
still
to do
probably
nothing.
helped out a little bit.
Yeah, so but their house was attacked. Claire was taken from town to town to town. She was kidnapped. She was stoned. She was almost hung. Like, just you could see it on her face. She was like, I don't want to hear
Mm-hmm.
another thing out your mouth. I just want you gone. But her sense of who she is, she wouldn't even allow him to kill himself because, again, that would have been too easy. It would have been better for him to be arrested, him to confess, and him to sit in jail to think about what he did. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what Claire was thinking too. But of course, you have some other people who are hot tempered with good reason who were like, nope, he does not need to live another day. He's done. Thank you, Ian. Now we have a
Yeah.
close to the Christie storyline.
Yeah.
At least we think we do. So anyway, on to happier things. Kind of, sort
Yes.
of. Brianna has the baby. She
Mm-hmm.
has a little girl named Amanda, which we knew was coming. I again did not expect the quickness of how this storyline was going to go with Mandy to take place, because in the books, Mandy is a little bit older when they discover her heart issue and they decide that they have to go back through the stones in order to save her. But here,
Oh.
she's still like very much a newborn, maybe only a
Mm-hmm.
few days, maybe a few weeks old. No, she looked like she was a few days old. When Claire notices this blue tinge on her fingernails and she takes a listen and she hears like the murmur. So basically, Mandy has a murmur. She has the little hole in her heart did not close up when she was born. And in this day and time, there's really no way to fix it.
Mm-mm.
So Claire is basically prepping Brianna for the inevitable that Mandy will most likely die. And it's like, while they're having this conversation and Roger and Brianna are crying and they're upset, it's almost like you can see Claire and Jamie both have the same realization together but separately. Like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit, they're gonna have to go back.
They have to go.
Because when Brianna says, can you fix it? And Claire's like, no, I can't. And she was like, but I know someone who can. I said, she about to send her back to Dr. Joe.
Right.
She about to send them back to the future. And it's like Jamie's, the way he reacts to everything with his eyes, with his face. I was like, this dude already knows he's about to lose his family.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you really can do about it because
Nothing.
he knows that this is the best thing. Like, what would you do? If this was Claire and it was Brianna, he'd be like, take your ass back now. Why aren't you
Hey,
gone
I'm good.
already?
I'm good.
Right.
But what is so not funny, but it's just like when they were like, "Can you do something?" Claire's like, "Nah, I mean, I ain't have that much experience."
But she was
I
even
wasn't.
she was
I was.
trying to.
I was like, I wasn't. But she was trying to process in her head like, "There's no way. Like, I didn't have that much surgical rotation
Mm-mm.
to do this.
She was
There.
like,
I
I could
mean,
do this and I could do
but
that,
but I
but
don't. But
she
I
didn't want to
can't.
take that chance, not with her
No.
grandchild.
Mm-mm.
She probably
No.
would have done it for one of these other folks on the ridge.
Older people, right?
Right.
Because it's like if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But I can't do not on no infant because that's something totally separate.
And you're talking heart surgery. Like, you
Right.
make one mistake and there's no fixing that.
None.
Especially in this day and time when you have very limited surgical tools. You don't have the proper anesthesia, because are you really about to give a baby ether? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. You
Mm-mm.
don't have the proper anesthesia. You don't have the proper shit. This is a newborn baby. You need to have some sterilization.
Yes.
Even more so than you give these older people who probably would survive most stuff anyway because of the way that.
And the pain and stuff like that. But
Right. But you can't do that to a newborn.
you cannot.
So they have to make the decision that, okay, we're going to go back. Now we have to get some gemstones. They go to Wilmington to try to get these gemstones. And who does Brianna bump into? But Lord John Gray, yay! And his son,
Right.
the 9th Earl of Ellesmere, who also happens to be Brianna's brother.
And it was weird seeing it a little bit because he was looking at Brianna like, oh, she's
Right.
nice looking. And I'm thinking, no, boy, whoa, this your
But
sister.
also, it's so funny.
Thank goodness she
the way-
married.
because the way that Brianna was responding to him,
Yeah.
if you don't know the history between these two characters, like, it would have come across as kind of flirty.
Like flirty,
But
right.
She was more so, I think,
Excited.
kind of excited about the fact that, oh my God, I'm finally meeting my brother.
Right.
And that's when he was like, have we met before? And she was like, no, I definitely would remember. I'm like, Brianna, that's a flirty line. You can't say
right. And he's looking
but
like, oh, okay.
She meant it in a different way. But yeah, it was funny when he said that. He was like, have I seen you before? I was like, when you look in the mirror, technically, because, they did some good casting with that, because he does have some of the features that would make it look like he is related to her and Jamie. So they did some really good casting with that. Like, he looks just different enough for it not to be like, bam, that is your son walking around who stole your face. But it's close enough that he can be like, you look familiar. Oh, that's Colonel Fraser's daughter. Oh, yes, the girl from Hellwater. I was like,
yeah. So he really can't run into Jamie, because he'd be like, damn, that dude look like what I would look like when I get older. Yeah, it would.
Yeah. But the look on Jamie's face when he sees them together, because he's coming across the courtyard and he happens to look up and he sees Lord John and Brianna and William. And I think it was just everything in him was screaming like, I need to go. My two children are together. But at the same time, he knew he kind of had to stay back. And then also, because I forgot about the whole little argument he and Lord John had in the last season when he joined the Sons of Liberty. So technically speaking, they are on opposing sides right now. And we hear them talk about that when Jamie goes to Lord John to speak to him. And it's like, you can see the friendship is still there. You can see that Lord John is obviously still in love with Jamie.
You can.
But, I think more important for the both of them is that, one, William has signed up to be in the army. He is a red coat now, and he is planning on fighting against the rebels, which means that if Jamie stays and takes up arms with the Sons of Liberty, he will be fighting across the battlefield from his son.
Right.
That's a no. Jamie's like, nope. The last time I had to do that, I ended up taking my godfather's body off the battlefield. I'm not doing that again. No, I would never fight for the British. And Lord John is still trying to appeal to him, but Jamie is like, look, this friendship is dangerous for both of us. As you say, we're on opposing sides. So at this point, the best thing for us to do is to sever all ties. And the pain with which he says this, not just because of William, but because Lord John is his closest friend. Regardless of everything else, like, that is the man who has seen him through a lot of shit. And then he's, taking care of your son on top of that.
Right.
You know, that wasn't easy for him to say. And I tell you, I can't sit through and watch Lord John cry. I don't like watching him tear up. It hurts me to the depths of my core. I can't do it. So this scene was so hard because you could tell both, there's so much emotion in between these two.
Yeah. You
And then
definitely
like, okay, we
can.
can't be besties anymore. We have to go our separate ways. I was just like, the look on Lord John's face when Jamie walked out that door, I was just like, I have to pause my TV now. I have
But
to
I mean, I love it because I
together.
love that connection that they do have, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see the history and the love that they have between each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to go back to Brianna talking to Lord Gray about, oh, he should know who his daddy is. Honey, that ship has sailed. There's reasons. This is not like this is 1975. Okay.
Yeah.
We can't do this now.
Yeah. And like the
it, it,
consequences
it's
for
it's
William,
heavy. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
it would be
lot.
so
So
much more devastating than it was for Brianna. Like literally, William Ransom is an inherited title.
mhm.
His lands, his monies, everything. Like if it's found out that he is not the eighth Earl of Ellesmere's son, he loses everything. His titles, his lands, his money, his reputation, his name. He loses
Everything.
his whole identity. Granted, Brianna did too, but she gained so much more
Mhm.
from that secret. And, you know, that secret had to be kept from her for different reasons. Frank was the one who told Claire never to speak of her time. He was
Mhm.
like, I don't want Brianna to know. She's gonna know she's gonna know she's my daughter. I'm gonna raise her as my daughter. She doesn't need to know about anybody else. And at that point, it kind of made sense because
And it was complicated. Like this is straightforward. We know the consequence.
mm,
Brianna, yours is complicated. How are we gonna explain to a 13-year-old girl that your
that
mama
your
touched the
dad was 200
stones?
years in the future
Right.
in the
See
past.
that's something that requires some maturity and something you got to know when you older. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't say your dad is from this time because you'll be wondering why your dad neglected you and didn't come and see you, and it was too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So your first dad made sense by saying no, we shouldn't tell her.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you be looking at your mama like, why are we not committing her?
Right. Like, oh, this newspaper said that you were taken by the fairies, so you still seeing fairies? Like, yeah.
Right. It's a lot. There was a reason for you, but here it's straightforward. It's more complicated
Mm-hmm.
in the matter of the time of
Right.
what's left of this man. And
And
then
if
it
you
goes
think
back
about it,
it
she
goes back
was
to even his
older.
mom. His mom, they had a title, so then that also says that the reputation of your mom
Mm-hmm.
is out the window too.
Yeah.
She can't defend herself.
Yeah. But Brianna was also older than William is now when she found out, and we see how well she took it.
Thank you.
So no, I mean,
Mm-mm.
but I understand, and I appreciated her telling Lord John about her experience with Frank because he was like, "Can you imagine what it would do to him to find
Yeah.
out at this age?" And she just sat there and she just kind of chuckled because she's like, "Yeah, I kind of know. I have
Yeah.
firsthand experience with this." So I
Mm.
understand both sides of it, but
I do.
again, like you said, one took place in modern times. Things were a little different. Things taking place now, if he were to find out now with everything that's going on, I don't think
Yeah.
that wouldn't be good for him.
However, spoiler, which I don't really know, guys, but he's gonna find out because
I
y'all setting it up for
know,
him to find out.
I know that he
So,
does find out. I don't know which book he finds out, but I hear that he finds out and that he's pissed about it. So
well,
that's about
clearly, and
all I know.
we clearly said that that was gonna happen. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I figured, okay, we talking about this, so we're gonna find out. He's gonna find out.
Oh yeah. And I think it'll probably be sooner rather than later
Hmm?
because one, like we said, we have 16 episodes in this season. So I think they probably will explore that in this season as opposed to waiting till the last season because I feel like they're going to have to do that this season and then whatever happens in the 7th season is going to wrap up the story because like we discussed last week, they have to get books, what, 6, 7, 8, 9, the
Mm-hmm.
different pieces from all of those books into these 2 seasons. So I would say, especially at the pace that they're moving now, maybe 2, 3 episodes at the most.
From now,
Yeah,
possible.
we
Mm-hmm.
probably will find that out. So yeah, but the whole thing with William and Brianna meeting, it does result in another bonding moment for her and Jamie, because also Lord John gives Jamie back the sapphire that Jamie gave him from Silky Island, because Jamie
Mm-hmm.
tells him, oh, that's why we're here. The gemstone is for Brianna. Brianna tells Lord John that she and Roger are going to Boston, but she doesn't explain why. So they go out on a walk and they have this nice father-daughter conversation. Jamie is happy about the fact that she got to meet William before she left, but he was like, he's in the army, you're leaving, I'm kind of worried for both of you. And Brianna goes into this whole thing about she tells him about the future. She tells him about
Mm-hmm.
Disneyland,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because that the name of the episode is The Happiest Place on Earth. So she talks about this magical place that Claire and Frank took her to when she was little, and how it had different types of games, and it's really a place for children, but it's for adults too. And she's just basically talking to him about how magical things can be. And they have this really nice conversation where he asked her, he was like, so are you disappointed being here in this time? And she was like, no, this is not a disappointment to me. And I have a feeling that if Mandy wasn't sick, you know, Brianna and Roger tried to go back once, and the Stones brought them right back.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they
They
realized
want to
at
be
that
there.
point that's where they wanted to be, even with all of the hardships, even without all of the modern amenities. That was where they wanted to be, and I think Brianna would have made her peace with staying there and raising her children there with her parents until Claire and Jamie died, and then maybe they would have tried to go back. But at that point, the kids will be too old.
Yeah, and
I feel like
I'll be looking like, okay, I'm 20 and you take me. This is
right, right,
a big difference
or
here.
even
So
10, 11 is that's going to be
just
very
imagine the
different.
conversations in middle school if they went back then. So no, I feel like they actually made their peace when they realized it brought them back to the place they wanted to be.
Yeah,
And they're like, okay,
right.
this is where we want to be.
But now they have no choice. They have to
Yeah.
leave. And that's that conversation with Bree and Jamie. They have some of the best conversations, when we can get really lovely heart to hearts with them. Again, crying, because I'm like, I don't want to see this happen. I know you don't care too much for Roger and Brianna's story, but I kind of like the fact that
No, I like this story now. I didn't care for episode 1. I needed to find out what was going on with Claire and Jamie. I'm like, I didn't need
you
this
didn't care. Yeah,
distraction. Right
okay,
now, this is a good distraction, but
okay,
bad distraction. But
yeah.
that one was a distraction on that story that we needed to get finished. Now, get her ass off that ship. I don't want to hear about Brianna. They good. They're good.
Well,
But
good.
now I do love their story. It's quite interesting, and I want to know the history of Roger, because it's just interesting that they found each other and
Mhm.
they're both travelers.
Yeah. Now, I
So I
will
want to know
say
some more
this.
about travelers.
So we do get a little bit of Roger's history in the books, and then I think there's also a vignette story that is included in Seven Stones to Stand or Fall. That's the collection. It's like an anthology collection of
Mm-hmm.
all of her little short stories. They put it in one book and released it a few years ago. So there's a little bit of information about, I want to say it's Roger's father, who may have been a traveler as well.
Okay.
because one of the things that happens in the books that did not happen in the show was that when Roger tried to come find Brianna the first time, when he was trying to travel, Fiona, Mrs. Graham's granddaughter, went with him to the Stones to kind of make sure everything went okay. So Roger goes through the Stones and he almost immediately comes back to the same spot. And it was because when he was traveling through the Stones, apparently you can hear the voices of other travelers, especially ones who have gotten stuck. So
Oh,
there are
wow.
some, because there are some travelers who don't know that they're travelers, and when they get to the Stones, especially if they don't have a gemstone, apparently they just kind of get stuck in limbo. And there was Roger doesn't know if it was a vision or if it was something that actually happened, but he believes that he saw his father on the other side of that travel. And it's like he saw his dad, and I don't recall if it was that his dad pushed him back through or if it was just one of those things where he was startled and tried to go back through and he ended up back where he was. I do know that there was something about him having seen his dad, and he was like, I think I just saw my dad. And so there is a little bit of a backstory on that. I don't know if we'll get that in this show. It would be nice to see, because you kind of do wonder, like, Roger is a traveler. They are very rare. So how is it that, it's just interesting that Roger, who comes from the Mackenzie clan, his family line is from the Mackenzies, like, where did the travel thing come through? Like, of course it had to start with Galus, but does it hit every generation? And then
I don't know,
does
because
that mean that they were always destined to meet each other because of the fact
the kids, because both kids have it,
right? And that scene was so interesting too, when they were sitting there trying to decide when they were going to travel, because they were like, Amanda is so small, we don't even know if she can travel. And Jamie was dangling one of the gemstones in front of her, and Roger pulls Jim over. He was like, Jim, can you hear anything? He was like, yes, it's singing. And she hears it too. And they were like, how do you know? He said, she said so. I was like, oh, okay. So him and his sister, they got this little
connection already.
I thought that was really cute, but
it was like, she could hear it. She said so. I'm like, so. Oh, okay.
They were like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing
I guess we can move. Yeah. And we're going tomorrow. We're ready.
Right. Because at that point, now that any kind of hesitation just puts her in more danger.
Correct.
Because you're prolonging what she needs, to be healthy and to stay alive. So that whole little sequence there of them going to Wilmington, getting the gems, Jamie presenting Claire with her own gem. He was like, yeah, if you want to go back with them, because Claire is already fretting, she's like, if I was in my own time, I would be in I would be in the waiting room with them while she was having surgery. And it wasn't her saying that to say, I need to go back with them. She's just talking it through in her mind, because again, after she says that, she was like, well, I did do a cardiac rotation. I don't, I could do this. And she starts talking her way through it. I can, go in, do this, sew this up. It's possible. But even she sounded like she's doubting herself. Like, I don't want to take this chance.
Right.
And that's when Jamie has this conversation with her. And he tells her, I've dreamt of you in your own time before. And she was like, really? What was I doing? He said, you were sitting at a desk writing, I think. And she asked, how did you know it was my time? And he said, because of the light around you. It didn't look like candlelight. It didn't look like, the kind of light that we had. And I thought to myself, oh, this must be what electric light looks like. And she has, she's like, well, how can you dream of something you've never seen before? And he was like, do you not do that? She was like, yeah, I do, but with landscapes and people. She was like, that's different. I'm like, how is that different?
Right. How is it? It's not.
Right. And he said that he sees it, and he was like, well, I dream of the past. Why would I not dream of the future? And I was like, okay. So
like, okay. Yeah, me too. I was like, okay.
Right. But
And she
then,
said, of course you do.
of course, because how else do you answer that? But here's the thing. So when he starts talking about this dream and seeing Claire in the future, I started wondering some things. So
I
you
did too.
remember back in the very first episode of the very first season
Yes,
when
ma'am.
Claire is standing in the window and she is brushing her hair. And actually, that was not electric light that was behind her. We were talking about this off camera. That was
Okay.
candlelight because remember the lights went out.
Oh, the
Because it was,
power was
yeah,
out.
the
Okay.
power went out. So that was candlelight that she was brushing her hair with. So it wasn't that time he was talking about, but we see Jamie standing in the courtyard looking up at Claire, and it's actually his ghost because Frank actually brushes past him, and when he turns around, Jamie is gone. Also, at this time, Jamie is the younger version of himself. He is very much season one Jamie with the beret and the tartan and like full out Scottish regalia. But I was like, okay, so is this
This could
something?
be explaining it though.
It could be the start of it.
Right.
It could be
Because
like,
he can learn how to project himself.
could be, or he could actually be walking through time in his dreams. I mean, I don't know
He
how
really
that kind of
could.
thing works.
And you don't have to be a certain age to do that. You could be projecting the age you were at the time. I
That's
don't know. It's all up to you and your brain.
you're right. You're
So
right. Because
there's no rules.
if you think about other shows where people have died, at old age, I mean, I'm thinking of a couple in particular. Titanic, when Rose finally dies,
Mm-hmm.
when she meets up with Jack and her, in
Mm-hmm.
her version of heaven or whatever, she is back to the age that she was when she met him.
Right. And all the people in the age when they died on the Titanic.
Right. Which I mean, but they wouldn't have aged, but she did.
Right.
But when Jack takes her hand, he takes her hand, she's an old woman, but when the camera pans to her, she's
She's
back
young
to the
again.
young self. The
Mm-hmm.
other one is more recently Supernatural. When Sam dies, he's an old man, but when he meets Dean in heaven, he's back at the same age that he was the last time Dean saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
and even the Star Wars people, that's the same when Darth Vader dies and he's his son sees him. Oh, I can't even think of his name right now. And we see young Anakin. We don't see old Darth Vader. Even though that was placed in the movie, but it was a point to be made. Yeah. It was the innocent Anakin, ripe age of 20-ish.
Yeah.
Versus old man Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Smiling. So,
You're right. But yeah, so I thought that was very interesting.
So when I start popping up in people's dreams, when I pass, I want to be, the sexy in my 20s. Or in my 40s, not my 80s. Okay.
This is true because even as a ghost, you can't do much adventuring if you can't move around.
Right. My knees, you know what I'm saying? When I need an ibuprofen 800. No, I want to do it where I'm, limber. I can move around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's a start of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which means if others can walk through stones, we can give Jamie something.
He can walk through something. Like he can't physically go through the stones.
So, but we gotta give him something.
Yeah, he can.
We can dream of the future.
Right. That would be nice.
I mean, it was hard for me though, because I'm like, huh? What? You saw her, and you are explaining electric lights. Well, how are you doing that? And I'm having a hard time believing that in a show where they are about to travel through stones with gems. And then I realized, Michelle, really? This man can dream of the future.
So you can believe in some kind of magic, but not other kind of magic.
Right. And then that
stones where they can travel up to 200 years. Oh, that's nothing.
That's normal.
Dreaming of electric light.
How the hell he doing that? In the same episode.
in the
So
same
I'm like,
episode.
okay. So I let it go and said he can dream of the future. Because seriously, a whole family, 4 people
Mm-hmm.
with 4 different stones
Mm-hmm.
traveling
Mm-hmm.
to a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having trouble because he dreaming of electric lights.
And they
And
made
Claire,
it.
yeah, and they made it.
And they made it this time. You know, they wake up at the stones. Jim is playing with his toy airplane,
Mm-hmm.
which he took with him through the stones.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when they're trying to sit there and figure out, well, did we make it? And then they hear a
Then the
noise
fifth
and they
plane,
look up
they
and
made
there's
it.
an airplane.
They
I
made
was
it.
like, oh, they made it. And then also when you see them pan out to the surroundings, so they went to the stones at Ocracoke and they
Mm-hmm.
came over by boat. And you saw it when, you know, back in Jamie's time, lush trees, blue
The water.
water,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. When we get to whatever year it was that they traveled to, I don't know what year they traveled to.
It was dry.
The river has dried up and it
Mm-hmm.
just looks so completely different. So yes, they're back where they should be.
Right. And it was a emotional goodbye. That was hard.
Okay,
When they were
so
at the
let's
Stones,
talk
it was
about
hard.
Jim because when they're saying their goodbyes, you know, Claire's saying her goodbye to Brianna, and she's talking about how she went through the stones once to protect her baby, and now she has to do it to protect hers. And she was like, it feels like goodbye. I'm never going to see you again. Or that's what Brianna says. And Claire was like, look, we've said goodbye twice before.
Mm-hmm.
And you always came back. So never say never. You know, I think Claire, at least in some way, has a little hope. And then when she reaches down or she kneels down to talk to Jim, and she was like, you take care of your baby sister, okay? You teach her how to play hide and seek like we taught you to. He was like, I love you. Girl, when I say the waterworks started flowing, the dam broke, because I was already emotional at this point. I was like, I don't like their goodbyes.
No, I
They're
don't.
heart wrenching, they're gut wrenching. You have Claire and Brianna over here saying this. You've got Jamie telling Roger that he was a good man, a man of honor, how proud
Yes,
he is of
proud
him.
he is of
And
him.
you have little Jim with his little voice, I love you. I
Yeah.
was just like, I bet you they were a mess filming that
I
scene.
know.
And then when he goes to say goodbye to Granddad, he was like, I don't want to leave you, Granddad. Stop doing this to me.
And but for me the hardest one was actually Jamie and Brianna. I don't know because he be looking at her like she's still a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like my baby is
Yes.
leaving, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
But you know, at the same time, he is
But I'm
looking
just
at her
happy of the
like,
time that they had together.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. He's looking at her like, you know, truth be told, I should not have even had this time with you.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, I can't say goodbye to you. And she was like, it's not goodbye. You what did she say? You are a part of my heart and my soul, and I will carry you with me all. I can't even say it.
Right.
Oh my God. That scene was like, we've seen goodbye scenes on the show, and that's one thing they actually do very well. All their goodbye scenes, whether it has to do with someone dying, whether it has to do with them going through the stones, they're all so emotional and heartfelt and gut wrenching and beautiful and horrible. And it's just like they nail it every single time. And this one was just, I think it was more emotional simply for the fact that it actually was goodbye. Like the way that they pan the camera, you see Brianna and Roger holding hands with the kids, and they walk towards the stone, and then you see the back of the stone, and it's like all of a sudden you know that they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And what does Jamie say? He said, for your sake, I will continue.
For my sake alone,
For my sake alone, I would not. And I was just like,
I
oh,
would not.
they're gonna have a hard time with this.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go back to Fraser's Ridge and they're laying in the bed that night and neither one of them can sleep, Claire, I think to kind of help her get out of that headspace, she tries to be intimate with Jamie, but she can't.
It doesn't work.
she's got too much emotion pent up,
Mm-hmm.
and he lets her just talk about it. And she talks about how they've lost. She was like, we've lost our whole family. Roger, Brianna, the kids, Marsley, Fergus, even though they're not physically gone, they're in a whole different city. I don't even know if we're going to see Marsley and Fergus this season, which makes me upset
Are
because
they in
I
the?
love those
Well,
two.
you don't know if they're in the future books.
I don't know. I don't even know. I think I want to say at some point they do find out that Claire is a traveler, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
And
okay.
see, now we got questions. Now you're gonna make me go and read the books, and I said I wasn't gonna do
You
that.
not don't do it. The questions I have, we will find out later.
But how we
I'm
gotta
just
wait.
wondering. I'm just this
Yeah,
like I want to know if they do get back together again. If Brianna and Roger and the kids do come, I mean, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And
But
it's one of those things where should they, because that's a risk you have to take too with kids, taking them through those stones.
and then if
So,
you're taking them from one time to another. Now,
mhm.
depending on how many years they're there in that future time, when they come, if they come back, are they going to know, they'll be older at that point,
Mhm.
obviously, but will they know enough to say, hey, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that? It's kind of like,
Mhm.
I feel like the stress of it would be
Too much.
too much to try to govern or watch what they're saying all the time. Going forward at the age that Jem is now, it's probably a little bit easier because you can always, if he says something that's out of place, you can always say, oh, he has an overactive imagination or that sort of thing,
Mhm.
or you can explain it the same way. Hey, he has very vivid dreams. I've told him enough about my father and my mother that he pretends that you know what I'm saying? You can
Yeah.
kind of explain it away and it not be so weird. But taking them from the future and bringing them back to the past, I mean, you saw how much of a struggle it was for Claire and Brianna and Roger to kind of adapt and realize,
That
oh, we can't say this, oh, we can't do this. Even though, Brianna did do some things that she wasn't supposed to do, like creating matches, which we will talk about in a little bit. But it's like I don't know if I don't know if they come back. And I don't know
I
if I
know that.
want to know now because then if I find out, yes, they do come back, I'm going to be like so impatient for that part of the story to happen. And I don't want to do that. That's why I said once they've announced that the series will end with season 8 and that they are going, they're telling story up through book 9. I was like, okay, at this point, it makes no sense for me to read the books now, especially since we know that they've changed some stuff. I'm just going to wait and see what happens, but I do hope that they do get to see each other again before whatever happens, Claire, Jamie, whatever. But Claire, once she kind of backs off Jamie and she's talking to him about their losses and he starts telling her about his losses too, and he was like, I think about all the people that we lost. He names Murta. He just starts naming people, and then she just completely falls apart.
Yeah.
And I was just like, y'all are killing me with this episode because you feel every ounce of grief that she has held over the last however many years. You feel all of it because for the most part, when Claire has experienced grief, she cries, but I don't think she mourns properly. She doesn't grieve
Mhm.
properly because really she doesn't get the chance to because there's
You
always
don't
some
have
shit going on.
time
She
to.
doesn't have time because there's always the next drama, the next trauma, the
Mhm.
next whatever. So she doesn't really have a chance to sit there and just allow herself to feel it. And I swear, she felt every goddamn thing in this scene because I was sitting there feeling emotionally drained watching her. And all Jamie could do was hold her. And he was like, you grieve for them. And when you're done, I'm here. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful scenes in the show because it it's about a different type of intimacy
Mhm.
between them. And again, you get to see just how much on the same wavelength Jamie and Claire are. You know, for all their differences as far as them being from two different times, them being, you know, two different people, experience two different things. Just the fact that he is able to connect with her, like he can figure out what's wrong with her. He says what he needs to say, and he allows her the space to grieve and get it out, and doesn't try to. He doesn't try to tell her to stop. He doesn't try to, you know, he doesn't try
Yeah.
to make her say, "Oh, it's
He's
gonna get
present with
better."
her in that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. So I think that was a very beautiful scene. And so, you know, after that, we get to see them on the farm, just trying to live life. And, you know, she
Mm-hmm.
talks about how it's been several weeks. Lizzie has her baby. And you know, what does Claire say? Everyone is enamored, is so enamored with baby Rodney that even Jamie has relented and allowed the unusual family to stay on the roof.
I love that.
But you know, she's still doing her little talk over, and she's coming to the house after picking some flowers or whatever. She comes to the house and it's almost dark, and the front door is open. I was like,
Here
don't
we
walk
go
in.
again.
I
That's
was
what I
like,
was
don't
thinking.
walk in.
Here we
Like,
go
who
again.
is here now? Like,
What's the problem? What's the
right.
problem? Like they
Because
just
we're like,
said they several weeks. We actually giving her some time to mourn the situation, and now another situation is about to occur. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, good gosh, give them some time.
so
Now
she
this is the
walks in.
time where I'll be okay if we go to Roger and Brianna. Let's see what they doing.
Like, do we really have to have more drama with Claire
Right.
now?
Let's see what they doing. Let's see how the surgery went. Okay. How they got some
Right,
money.
right. So she
Where
walks
they
in
live?
the
What
house.
apartment are they living in? I mean, did
Uh,
they get a house? Like, what's going on? Did Brianna put some money away from her dad? I mean, so let's go back to that time. I don't want to go back to this right here, and there's an issue.
yeah, but we have to get to it. We have to get to it. She walks in the house. We see a figure sitting in the chair behind. He lights a match, and it's Wendigo fucking Donner. And I was like, you know what? Roger should have just let him escape,
Thank you.
gave him a gemstone, and
Thank you.
sent him
That's what
on
I
his
thought
way.
too.
Like, it's one of those things, and we talked about this at the end of the last episode off camera, where it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, Jamie felt pity for Stephen Bonnet and freed him. And, you know, Bonnet was like, you'll never see me again, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens? Bonnet realizes that Jamie and Claire have gemstones. They rob them. He takes Claire's rings. Then Brianna sees the ring. She tries to get it back from him. He rapes her and goes through this whole thing, all because Jamie had compassion for this one person. So
And let him
now
go.
Roger doesn't have compassion for Wendigo Donner because Wendigo sat by and, you know, well, I won't say allowed, because again, he does make a point. Lionel Brown and his men would have killed me. I get that. But
I
still,
do.
he was there, present in the moment when Claire was being sexually assaulted by multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wanted Roger to help him. Roger was like, no, I'm not going to help you.
And now here he goes.
Now here he goes. He done escaped. And he's there because, of course, he knows that Claire is a traveler. He knows Roger is a traveler. So he's thinking, oh, you guys probably have gemstones. I just want to go back home. And again, he keeps using this excuse. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. So you're going to give me gemstones, or you're going to tell me where they are. You need to tell me what I did wrong, because the one time I did try to go back, I ended up back here. But I was also drunk and blah, blah, blah. So Claire tells him, you can't be drunk. This is what you do. This is how you do it. But we don't have any gemstones. He doesn't believe her. He has his men come in with Jamie at gunpoint, and he sends his men off to search the house. So Jamie is trying to
Oh,
diffuse the situation with
but
humor.
when he learned who he was,
Jamie
he
was
was
about
about
to
to
kill
come
him.
across that room.
Let me tell you, if that dude who was holding him hadn't grabbed him, and then the other two didn't come in with the bugs, and that was a whole weird situation, because they come in, he's got
It
a
was.
bag, Arch and Merdina, Mr. and Mrs. Bug.
Right, I know. I said it was
Yeah.
really weird. I had to actually rewind that 3 times. I'm like,
Oh,
what the hell do they have? And what are they saying to each other? And I'm like, I
so
see the gold, and he's like, where you get that from? It's none of your business. And because I watched it 3 times,
uh-huh.
I'm like, well, oh shit, what
Did
they
you
into?
did you figure it out?
No, but I was like, well, where did they get the gold from? Okay,
So
so this is okay. We got another issue that we're gonna have to take care of after we take care of this
yes,
robbing
but
of the house.
this is an issue I was expecting to come up. I didn't know
Oh,
how and when, but
okay.
yeah. So the guys come in. They have Mr. and Mrs. Bug, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we did find something," and they pull out a bar of gold. And then Jamie is asking in Gallic at this point. He's asking Archbug, where did you get that gold? It's none of your business. Jamie is like, it damn well is my business. So in the midst of all of this, Wendigo is like, cut that shit out. We're not here for gold. We need gemstones. He doesn't care about the gold.
Mm-mm.
I'll talk about the gold in a minute. So anyway, he sends his goons into Claire's surgery to look to see if she has gemstones there. Now, why she didn't tell him we don't have gemstones? We literally just sent our daughter and her family through because my
No,
grandma.
because Jamie said he gave it to Claire.
But again, he said no. He said Claire hid them. Claire could
Yeah,
have said, "Well, I gave them to my daughter and her
he
husband.
could.
They've already."
Yes, and they didn't. And I'm like,
So
oh hell,
right, right.
what's
But
that smell? Here we
yeah,
go
because
again.
they go through the surgery, they unlock the locks cabinet, they pull out the bottle that says ether. And I understand that the goons probably aren't smart. They probably don't even know what the fuck ether is. They are smashing bottles on the ground. And of course, they throw 2 bottles of the ether down. Wendigo says, "What's that smell?" And Claire's like, "It's ether." So Jamie, and the bugs, they all cover their nose because they
Because they
already
know.
know what this is about to be. And Wendigo's guys are in there talking about, it's so dark in here, I can't see. Turn on the fucking light. But no, what does Wendigo do? He takes the matches that he found on Claire's table that Brianna made, and he lights a match. And Claire's like, no, don't do that. And then all of a sudden, we see a pan out view of the big house, and the house goes boom.
And then my
And then
first
the
thought is
episode
like,
ends.
and then my first thought is, this is the house fire. So what's about to happen?
Yeah, it can't be the house fire because we still have 14 episodes from this season, and you know they're not going to kill Claire and Jamie
Well,
off.
no, I know they're not going to be dead, but I'm like, but this is the house fire that must have been in the paper. So that was my first thought. Like, this is the
Oh,
house
okay.
fire that was in the paper.
Could be.
Because we can't come back from that
Right.
explosion. I know
Right.
they're not dead, but I'm just saying the
Yeah.
explosion
So
to
now we got to
rebuild.
figure out what's going on. Yes, because
So
I was like, they just can't catch a break. Like,
and that is from 2 things that wasn't meant to be in that time being put together: a match and ether.
mm-hmm. Yep. And Claire and Wendigo, if you think about it.
Yep,
Yep.
4 things in the room.
Yep. So, but anyway, I don't know. Before the episode, did you watch the previously on Outlander? Did you watch that where they showed the flashbacks? So you remember the flashback they showed about Jamie talking about the gold that was supposed to go to Bonnie Prince Charlie? And yeah.
So that's
So
that gold.
yeah. So apparently the bugs have
They,
access to
they
that gold too,
right,
because
they
I
sitting on
think,
that gold.
yeah, they're sitting on it. But my question is, how did they get it? Because we know that Jocasta had some, because we saw her little flashback story with her husband taking some of the gold, and he ended up bringing it there, and that's how they built River Run and all this other stuff. So it's like, so who was Mr. Bug over in Scotland that he would have access to that gold?
Correct.
So I think that's going to open up an interesting storyline that could take a couple of episodes, but the way that they're wrapping up things in the story, it may only take 1 episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Yeah, the
Ooh.
bugs got some explaining to do.
Well, Wendigo is done. I'm sorry. Like I can see Jamie Claire surviving. They will
Yeah.
survive. But you did the match, so you're done.
And you were in the room where the ether
Right,
was. See,
right.
here's the
So
thing. Wendigo and his people were all in that room. So you
and
already know, especially with as strong as that ether is, I'm pretty sure his men are knocked out by now.
yeah.
Claire, Jamie, and the bugs were close enough to the door that they probably could have gotten out. They may have been knocked away from the house by the fire. But yeah, they didn't die. They didn't die.
But it was cool to say, "Oh my goodness, this is the house fire."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
and then when they wrote that, and our perspective, even when it said that Jamie and Claire died, maybe we don't really know that though, because they could assume they did, and something, they went and traveled
right.
somewhere else. So and just like,
Right.
oh, they must have died in the fire.
Yeah. So
However, it was just, I like how we made that connection, and we're to that point
right, right.
after Brianna and Roger left, because
Yes.
that was a reason too. She
That
came.
she came back. Yeah.
So
but I think she also addressed that because when she and Roger were talking about leaving, she had told Roger, I will go back with Mandy, you stay here with Jim. I was like, now
what sense that make?
why in hell Roger finna let you do that?
No, what sense that make?
Right. So, but she was
But you know
talking
what?
about
It
it
does, because to her, she would think she would go get the surgery and bring
and
them
come
back.
back. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
But that
you don't
still
even
doesn't make
want to.
sense. They all need to go together.
Yeah.
And then once everything is good, you can make that decision if you want to travel back or
Right.
not.
Because here's the thing. So even if you do go to the future with your daughter, you come back whenever it is that you come back. How are you going to get back home? Because chances are they're not going to leave the boat there. They have to be able to get back.
Mm-hmm.
You are a woman traveling alone with a child in the 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
You tried that once before and you found some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to take that. No, you either gonna stay here with Roger and y'all gonna bury your baby, or all of y'all are going. It's just one or the other.
Or the
There is
other,
no in
right.
between. There is no in between.
You can't separate your family like that.
Not like that.
It's not like, oh, okay, I'm going to another state for the surgery. No, you're going to a different time.
You going to a different century. Yeah,
Right.
that's not
So
gonna work.
yeah, you can't
It's
separate.
not gonna work.
Mm-mm.
It's not gonna work. But I will say this too. The other scenes that I really liked in this episode was the scene where Jamie is walking around with Amanda talking to her, because I love seeing his scenes with the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like you always feel with Jamie's character that he is so thankful to have that family around him, because he grew up around so much family.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to go through life thinking that he would never see his wife or daughter again, to the point where he married someone he didn't really care about just to be able to take care of her children, to have a family of his own, for him to be able to meet his daughter, that he never thought that possible, to have Roger Mack as a son-in-law, to get to sit there and hold his grandbabies that he never thought he would be possible. You get to see that joy on his face every time he's around those kids. Like, this is my life. And then you see what he looks like when that's taken away from him. It was just, this episode was so sad. It was so sweet in a lot of different ways.
Right. My favorite scene was Brianna and Jamie with the fireflies.
The fireflies.
I said it's magical moments. Magical moments like that.
It was funny listening to her try to describe Mickey Mouse to him, though. I was like, why can't you just say a person dressed in a costume like a mouse? And
right.
then,
because the way she
found it from there.
Right. The way she said it, I'm thinking that ain't how he looks, but okay.
Right. Like that wouldn't make sense.
He was like,
to me
a rat?
Right.
Like, yeah, a rat.
And then what did he tell Jim? He said, if you should happen to encounter a mouse named Michael, Tell him your grandfather's citizens were gone. So
Oh,
cute.
it was.
So cute.
It was. Going back to the intro. No, I couldn't skip the song this week. However, I did fast forward.
Yes, it didn't allow you to
I
skip the
did.
song.
No, it didn't. But I fast forward to this part. I said, "Oh, there's some home footage of Disneyland," and then the last scene of the home footage was Mickey Mouse, but he wasn't looking so hot. It looked a little creepy.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse looked a little bit different back then in the 60s.
But no, because I remember him back then. But I'm just saying, in how that feel was that he was just by himself. I'm like, oh, so magical moments happen, and then it comes to an end. Because that right there says it's time for us to go home. This has turned into another movie. Because he was looking a little creepy. Just the way how the footage was, and then how the song was. It was just a tad bit on the not happy moments, but more of it's time to leave the park.
Yeah. I was laughing at that intro though. I said, okay, they must have heard all of us who were talking about skipping the intro, and they were like, nope, what y'all not gonna do.
No.
Because I'm listening to the song again, and
it's a no.
I just don't like it. I don't. So I'm sorry. I don't like it.
I don't either. It's a no.
Yeah.
So
now we have Jamie and Claire. The big house is definitely gone. We got Brianna and Roger back to the future with the kids, not knowing that Claire and Jamie's house just blew up. So next episode is going to be interesting because, like you said, we know Jamie and Claire survived.
Yeah, we know that.
But also, did you watch the previews for the next episode?
Right. So that's how I know they still alive.
They still alive.
They still alive.
Somebody died. I don't think they would be having a funeral like that for Wendigo Donner. So I'm hoping.
No. So
I'm hoping
it was only 4 other people.
Right.
So the process of elimination, one of the bugs had to be blown up in the fire.
I hope not. So. Maybe. Well, then again, because if you think about it, that means that if it wasn't one of the bugs, it might have been one of the twins, or it might have been
somebody else that could have been in the house. And that's what I was thinking. Because then I was like, where's Liz? I mean, I know they have their own place, but she could have been, you know what I'm saying? Like ran over there. I was thinking,
yeah, because I know we're not having no funeral for Wendigo Donner.
No.
So
not at all.
Guess we gotta wait till next week to see.
And I know it's not Ian because he still have some stories to be told about him. So
absolutely. And plus, Ian doesn't stay in the big house. I think Ian still stays in that little makeshift house that they have in the woods.
He does, but he just pops up sometimes when they're in danger. So you just never know that he has popped up. But he needs to have a hat. I'm sorry. I will fall out if he dies and he doesn't have some type of peace, love, happiness.
Who, Ian?
Yeah.
Oh, we gonna no.
If something happened to me, I'm going to protest.
Me too. Because
out of everyone, give him something that's tangible, that loves him back, and that he has for a while.
Well, I've heard rumors that will happen to him this season because of the casting for this season. Apparently one of the characters, and I can't remember her name because again, I'm not that far in the story. Apparently this is a person who he does have a relationship with, and he does he is happy. I'm going to hope that is the case, because I'm like you, please give Ian his happy ever after. He deserves it.
Right. Because that story that was told,
and then they have to deal with Malva Christie on top of that.
Right. I can't. It hurts my heart.
This whole family needs a happy ending. I mean, I know that technically speaking, Fergus and Marsley have theirs in New Bern, but again, I want to see Fergus.
Well, first of all, let's be honest. Jamie and Claire have their happy ending, no matter what happens. Just let's go back to Just finding that person, that one person throughout time,
Yeah.
leave, come back and find each other again.
Yeah.
And all the obstacles that they are still together, strong.
Yeah.
They have it.
Yeah.
So no matter what, and they're older, okay? So no
Mhm.
matter what happens now, they have found their
Right.
home within each other.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
good.
that was the other. Oh, that was the other line Jamie said to Claire when he gave her, he gave her the gemstone to see if she
Mhm.
wanted to go back, and she actually threw the gemstone out the window.
Mhm.
And she came back and she was like, I love you. He said, I'm not as strong as I used to be. I can't be in a world without you. I was like, oh, that's going to, again, going back to what you said, they need to have a notebook ending.
Yeah.
That just needs to be the end of their
It's
storyline.
together.
Yeah.
It's together.
Mm-hmm. That's what it needs to be. Cause I can't imagine. I don't know if I can imagine one without the other
You
at this
can't.
point.
And do you not understand? It even took Claire some time to get her shit together when she came back when she was
Mm-hmm.
pregnant and even had the baby. Like she couldn't, it was like, I can't even function. And then
Right.
she got herself together and, went to school and stuff and made it and
Mm-hmm.
still getting some evidence that that man is still alive.
Shonk.
She left. I mean, she left her kid.
Yep. Yep. She was like, "Oh, you'll be all right with him. I'm going to find mine."
Right. I
Like,
mean,
look,
it was a
200
time.
years can't separate this
Right, and
love.
it was a time where her and Brianna relationship was strained anyway.
Mm-hmm. But it was
So it
because she was keeping that secret from Brie.
right, yeah, and
She could never be herself
uh
around Brie. So yeah.
and Bree was a daddy's girl anyway, so she just saw her mom as an issue. So that that's just that just gonna happen
Yeah.
sometimes. But I like how when she did finally understand her mom and they built a closer relationship now. But yeah, they have had their happiest place on earth.
Mm-hmm.
They've been together,
Yeah.
even with their child and able to see their grandkids.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So
But I
they
need them to
have.
have a second happiest place where all of them can be together again. Like Brianna and Roger and the kids come back. I need to. I'm gonna keep saying, look, I'm gonna bring my microphone closer. So I need to see Fergus and Marcelly this season.
I know. I agree on
I'm
that one.
saying this very calmly, but I'm like jumping on the inside. Give me my goddamn Fergus and
Right.
Marcelly.
Right. Like
Bring me my.
we killed off these other characters. Can they come back
Can they
now?
come
Can
back?
they can they
Yes.
come back now?
Please bring them
Let me
back.
see them happy. Can they come back?
Yes, because I think we still got one or two more children that Marcelly's supposed to.
Damn.
So
Oh
yes, I
goodness.
want to see all of this. I miss the
Mm,
Spitfire that is Marcelly. I miss the gentleness that is Fergus. I I need them back on my screen. So anyway,
So
that's all I'm gonna say
okay.
about that for now.
Okay.
But I'll probably keep harping on it until they finally show up on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
warn you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you have any final thoughts on this episode?
No, not at all. It was a great episode.
And goodbye, Alan Christie and Wendigo Donner. We do not miss you.
I mean,
And on
we cutting ties now. Like
snip, snip, motherfucker, snip, snip. And on that note, that is it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. You can chat with us on our Discord channel. You can watch our videos on our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.